other questions about any plans? Yeah, Brandon?
Brandy Sullivan, just with the education part, I wonder if also just even the vehicles on the cross streets might need some education to be looking for bikes coming from the right.
There's a lot of details here that we just flat out don't have time to really delve into tonight. I mean, I spent probably twice as long going through this as I hoped. I was trying to consolidate 16 hours of conversation into 45 minutes and didn't make it. Yes, there are a lot of things like that. Cross-street traffic, people understanding what all those green crosswalks out there mean, how to watch for cross traffic and where they're going, and there's some options that have turn boxes and different things that we need to touch on tonight. That will all be in the information that we share in the public outreach process. But tonight we're just trying to give the commission a general feel of, okay, this is what they've been working on. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, Michael?
This is, it's kind of a, maybe it's only happened to me, I don't know. But after you repaint the crosswalks, because I walk a lot, and in the winter, when we have ice, I avoid those crosswalks altogether. That white paint gets so slick that I have done a break dance in the middle of 3rd Street trying to use the crosswalks. So if it's icy at all, I walk around the crosswalks. I don't know what's in that paint, and it seems like it, now that it's wearing off a little bit, it's not so new. It's a little bit grittier. But it seems like they should put some sand or something in that paint, because it is dangerous.
It's smoother than the actual asphalt probably, so.
It tends to be. I mean, there's a couple different materials we use. In some cases, it is literally just paint. In others, there's something called a thermoplastic, which tends to be a little bit thicker.
Well, they may, it probably, it's probably more visible at night when it's bright and maybe slick.
True, yeah.
But boy, you don't want to walk across it if it's icy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michael?
So I've got 4 observations to make as this next part of the process begins. Even though I sat through hours and hours of meetings, eating candy and off to the side of the table, there was a lot of hard work, obviously, that went into that. I think this is just the first baby step. The full commission, the public, and there's a lot of these ideas, I think, that some of us have sort of learned about and sort of developed a consensus about over the last month. I think to me, the most difficult part of this whole system is this section, I've said this before, between Hayes and Mountain View. It's never been a through traffic street, the bridge is going in, and I think as much as can be done, and I think this deals with most of the concerns I have, but still, it's a big issue of taking a neighborhood street and turning it into a through street. And so that section from Hayes to Mountain View, I think, is a special concern. Second part is and again, it shows, I think, these 2 parts of the corridor. It's not just a single corridor, there's really 2 major parts. Second part of the corridor is from downtown to Hayes, and I think the emphasis in the discussions has been on the 2-way bike lane that sort of turned, and I think the concept is a good one, and I support it. But again, there's a lot of detailed information that I think people that live along the corridor are going to see for the first time and wonder what the hell was I thinking about. So those are big issues, I think. The 2 other big issues, I think, are the stop control at Hayes and Blaine, and I'm a big supporter of the 4-way stop at Hayes and Blaine. I think that both of those are the most important traffic calming devices that can be used. But I think there's going to be an opposition to that. I think it's going to come in this way, and that is, you build a bridge, and it's mainly an auto bridge, as much as we like to say the term multimodal. It's an auto bridge. I think some number of people are going to say, why are you putting stop signs on 3rd Street? There are some really good reasons. Again, traffic calming and safety and all that. But I think that's just going to be an issue that the group is going to have to, well, the group, I'm pointing at Les, as a city person. The 4th part, I think, has to do with Jared and ITD, and that is the discussion about what happens to the Washington terminal. And I know that ITD has a process that you guys go through to consider taking parts of the state highway, and I would just, put out there, this is only a half a block. It has nothing to do with the capacity of the street, even though, perceived, I think it might seem like that. This is gonna be an uphill battle that you're gonna have with guys like Jared. But, and I say that with
Don't worry about
the
Jared.
Jared's on our side.
utmost respect. But it's still gonna be something, I think, that the city is gonna have to really have their ducks in a line and say, this is why this is important, even though it goes against the guidelines that ITD likes to have as many lanes on 95 as possible. So, good luck. Just taking the first step here.
So that's a good segue into, so after this meeting, we want to have a couple of public, well, the idea is we'll have kind of like a preferred plan that comes from the commission, that will go out, maybe a little more developed with like stop signs and things noted, that will go out and just be publicly displayed that people can provide feedback on, but also have a couple of workshops in January, so that when people come back, or open houses, whatever we call it, so when people come back, they can also provide feedback, and maybe some of us can be there to answer questions and that kind of thing too. Ultimately, to come back to the Transportation Commission later in January, so we wouldn't necessarily meet at the second Thursday like we normally do, but maybe the second or the third or the fourth Thursday of January to kind of recommend whatever plan kind of comes out of this whole process to go to the city council. So if it hasn't been clear, and I don't know if it's actually been said, the subcommittee prefers Plan C. And there wasn't, I don't know, that's why I want to speak for everybody, I don't know that anybody preferred either of the other two plans necessarily. Once Plan C got on the table, we all kind of started really thinking more about that option.
I think of A and B, the preference was B for a variety of reasons. So if for some reason C didn't work, B was kind of the next best thing. But I think there was much more support for C than either of A and B, based on what I was hearing. So.
I'd like to add for the commission that we were given, I brought them, lots of data on accidents and events and speeds and all the devices and what they do best and what they do least. And so the education level of the subcommittee kind of grew together and that. And what was really cool was after the first meeting where we had all kind of prioritized what we thought as our issues, and when Les put those together, when he went through them tonight, we identified them in mass, but we also identified by person. And so what I felt like there was a lot of commitment by the people at the table to continue to stay focused to what they thought was really important. And then as we began to come together and realize that the bicycling took on this, I don't know, momentum, and then we moved in that direction. And so it was a good process for the group was really honest and really spoke their minds on things that were important. So I was really pleased with just that whole thing.
Yeah. If I could also, just to go a little bit further on the public process, assuming that the commission here reaches a general consensus of let's move forward in the process, our thought is that we would actually launch that next week, right? In the form of a number of things. I mean, there would be social media outreach, city website, the city's television channel, things like that, press releases, maybe some articles with the paper if we could talk to them about it, to get the initial word out. We would put as much information as we possibly can on the city's page for the 3rd Street corridor, so that those that are interested can start looking at it and delving into all this detail that we've worked our way through. Be looking at the alternative plans, et cetera, et cetera. We are also in the process, well, they did it today, where the art exhibit that was out here on the 2nd floor is now on the 3rd floor, because next week we're going to set up a 3rd Street corridor exhibit in this hallway, right? So that we can lay out, we'll probably lay out at least Plan C out there, and then as much as possible probably provide drawing sets like these smaller ones that people could go through and then a bunch of things on the walls that, you know, talk about the detail and the why, and, you know, a lot of that stuff that we've talked about. There'll be opportunity for like comment cards and those kind of things, but we also have an email address set up, which is just 3rd Street at ci.nosco.id.us. That is already in place so that folks can start feeding in their input, and we'll post that all over everywhere, so that they can start providing that information to us through those means as well. And then, as was mentioned, probably after the 10th of January, which is when U of I school classes start again, we would do the 2 open houses. One of them most likely here, the other one we might move elsewhere in town. Probably a week apart. I'm thinking the 11th and the 18th maybe, which is the Thursdays after school starts. To, again, provide opportunity for folks to come in and look at all the drawings and talk with those of us that are attending it, so they can ask questions and, you know, understand, and then, again, provide input in whatever forum there that they'd like. Mike?
Sorry to pop in again.
No problem.
Just in terms of clarity of the process, I think that naming the dates as you just did, January 11th, January 18th, and then the date of the Transportation Commission, I think Ben had referred to that. If there's going to be discussions, stuff on the webpage, interviews with D-News and all that, I think having those scheduled dates published really early so people know as you're talking about it, and, you know, this process is now transparent. You've committed to these dates, here's the process we'll be going through.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I wanted to say that motor bridge or not, a lot of these features are needed for safety at the schools. Because if you ever go out there, as we did, and count them, students, and watch the speed, nobody slows down. There's chaos rather than a crosswalk. So I think I'm feeling positive about this plan, even though I'm still negative about the bridge plan. I do think it's a lot of it is important. And the problems with A and B, by putting the bike lanes and not changing the parking, it makes the street seem wider. And that's what we're seeing right here, that people are going faster because it looks like if there's no car there and there's a bike lane and no bike there, people just zip by. So that's what makes me feel better about Plan C, because I think it's there all the time.
I guess a couple of things that would help me make recommendations, whatever, when we get to the